Lift weights and get strong without a spotter, without a training partner. That's what we're talking about today. Are we rolling, by the way? All right, guys, let's talk about how to lift weights and get strong without a training partner. All right, guys, let's talk about how to lift weights, get strong without a training partner or spotter. This is for anyone who hasn't got a training partner, you haven't got someone to go the gym with, and you're struggling with your confidence on certain lifts. I'm going to show you how to increase the confidence and never have any sort of risk for injury or any worries when you're doing these lifts. So first off, think about your exercise selection. What exercise is it that you're a little bit less confident with, that you're a little bit worried about doing yourself? Maybe you need to do a bit more research on those exercises. The last thing you want to be doing is relying on someone else being there to help you do these exercises. You want to get confident on them yourself. There are some exercises that you're a little bit unconfident with, and we want to try and put a little bit more focus on getting better at the technique of doing those. Now, in most cases, people get injured and feel less confident on exercises such as squats and bench press. And this is because you're trapped under the bar, for lack of a better word. And this is why you need a spot, because when you're doing bench press, if you struggle and you can't get the weight up, the bench is going to squash you. Or if you're doing squats, it's going to squash you. So we want to get to the point where you feel confident doing these exercises without someone having to pull the weight off you. So for the record, I actually don't believe in spotters unless you're like proper power lifter. Go in the gym to get a little bit more athletic, look a little bit better. You don't need someone to be lifting the weights for you. First rule of training by yourself and not having a spotter is make sure that you train submaximally. So let's say if we're doing bench press, for example, and your 1 rep max is 60 kilograms. We don't ever really want to be going close to 60 kilograms. We want to be working with 35, 40, 45, maybe 50 kilograms. We want to stay underneath that maximal ceiling of strength that you have, and then that way you're never really going to have to worry about needing help lifting that weight. So train submaximally. General rule of thumb is you want to be looking around 60 to 80% of your 1 rep max. Point number 2, following on from the last point about training submaximally, you never really want to train to failure, especially on the big compound exercises. So we can train to failure on isolation exercises like bicep curls, bicep extensions, lateral raises. There's not really much of an injury risk there, whereas bench press, deadlifts, squats, higher risk of injury when you're going heavier because you're using bigger loads. And then third point, following on from the last point, is you need to figure out what your failure point is. Now, there's no real fast track to doing this apart from just getting more gym experience. So, and your failure point on different exercises is going to be different. You might hit failure and fatigue faster on a bench press versus like a leg press, for example. You might have higher endurance capability with your lower body than your upper body. Really, you need to get the training experience in to find out where your ceiling for actual failure is. And then fourth point, I've spoke about this in many videos, is stop getting help on your first rep. So as we've talked about in previous videos, doing shoulder presses, is don't get a lift up to here because you don't really know if you can truly lift that weight yourself. I just think if you've got to get someone in the gym to help you out, then can you truly do that weight? You always want to be putting your safety in other people's hands. Been plenty of times I've went to the gym in the past and asked someone for a spot and they've lifted too much of the weight to the point where then I don't really know if I truly lifted that weight or not. I don't know how much effort I actually put in. How do I track that? How do I measure that? Whereas if I'm doing it completely myself, I know that I lifted 100% of that weight all me on my own. So as we know, the main 2 exercises that have a little bit higher risk of injury and you're getting stuck under the bar, squats and bench press. So let's say all else fails, you've got no spotter, you're lifting a weight that you think you can handle and you get to your 8th rep, 10th rep of squats and your legs just give way and you don't know what to do. Now you're stuck under the bar. Most people do not know how to get out of this situation, so I'm going to show you how to save yourself. Now, we have 2 ways of approaching this. The first way is a preventative measure. So we have safety pins on the squat rack itself, so you can use a squat rack that has these already, or if you're using a rig like this, where you're just squatting in the open space, you can get safety pins like this. So then when we're at the bottom, if we hit failure, then we can just dump the bar onto those safety pins like this. As you see there, once I hit failure, I can just lean forward a little bit and dump that bar. Now really, these should be maybe 1 or 2 holes a little bit higher. That was a little bit low for me really, because I can get deep into the squat. It's not too bad, but if you've got less flexibility and you can only get to here, maybe because of your tight ankles, and yet you'd need those pins a little bit higher. If the pins are super low and you get to here, then you're gonna have to fall and you're going to make a big load of noise and everyone's going to look at you in the gym and then you're going to be really embarrassed. Now, secondly, assuming that you haven't got any pins, you haven't got any safety bar on the squat rack, you're going to need to dump the bar. This is where you hit failure in the squat. Now you've got to get the bar off your back, and most people do it wrong. Once they hit failure, they will dump the bar forwards and the bar ends up jamming in the back of the neck. And if you're using a pretty significant weight, you're going to really hurt yourself. What we've got to do is pop the weight off our back and hop forwards. It looks scary, but once you've done it a couple times, it's not that bad. So I'll show you, then I'll explain. And a little disclaimer, this can be quite intimidating, so if you really want to practice it, just do it with a light weight, and ideally you want to use bumper plates as well, so the rubber plates, so it doesn't make a big crazy loud noise on the floor. So as you see there, what I've done is once I hit the failure point and I knew I couldn't get up, I now have to think about, right, I need to get away from the bar. It's not just about letting go of the bar. You have to push the bar back off you and hop forwards a little bit. So it's literally like a bunny hop. So we're here and you're kind of doing this and jumping forward. At the same time, you're doing a little bit of a push off your upper back. Don't want to lose your balance though. You don't want to be pushed your back like this, because you're not going to be able to get the momentum to hop forward. And then it's push the bar back, and you're going to take a little hop forward. And now let's show you how to do the bench press one. Bench press, a little bit more difficult because the bar is on you and there's nowhere for it to go. So there's a couple ways to get the bar off you, and both of them aren't really that safe in themselves. First step is just don't get into this position in the first place. You need to make sure that you're using a weight that you can actually handle. But if all else fails and that bar gets stuck on your chest, here's what we're best doing. For this one, we're going to use no clips. So if you're doing a weight that you know is a little bit more maximal, it's going to test you a little bit more, you might hit failure on it, don't put clips on the bench press. Every other set, completely fine, but for this set, we're not going to use clips, and that is so if we fail, we can slide the plates off each side. And as I say, this isn't really that safe. Everyone's going to notice you in the gym, so don't be an idiot and ego lift in the first place. So we're going, we're all good, 1001, 1002, and then we struggle, and then we're here. What do we do? Where do we go? Now, you'll see sometimes this is one way of doing it, where people will roll it down the body, but that's how you crack a rib, especially if you're using a heavy weight. So we don't want to do that, but it is one way, especially if you've got clips on. There's another way where you can dump one side of the bar to like your left or right side and then sneak out the other side of the bench, which once again is also really difficult. But the best way to do it really is to just let one side of the plates slide off because you haven't got any clips on it. So we're here, we're stuck, no, so we let it slide, and there we go, okay? And then you can stand up. So there you go. Hope that has been informative and makes you feel a little bit more confident now with those big lifts. First step is just don't ego lift. Take your time. A lot of the time we put pressure on ourselves to lift more weight because we think like we're the weakest one in the gym. But remember, you are on your journey here, so take your time with the lifts. Think about the long game. I've got clients who are on 12-week programs, but at the end of the day, you know, it's 12 weeks, but really you need to be focusing over like 12 months. Slow yourself down, stop rushing, lift weights you can handle, and that's it. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you on the next one.